Hey everybody, Bill 1911 here. Today we're going to take a look at the Smith & Wesson Model 909. It's another nice little Smith & Wesson. It's 9mm. It's a good shooting little gun. It has a single stack magazine in it, so it doesn't have a lot of capacity to it. Okay, it's a 9 round clip. Okay, so, or excuse me, 9 round magazine. Alright. First thing we're going to do is make sure that we don't have any bullets in the gun. We're going to eject the magazine, check it out, make sure nothing's there. And then we're going to open our slide. I'm going to lock it open and demonstrate that there is no ammunition in the gun. Okay, we are empty. Okay, and that's what we want. Okay, so from here, we're going to go ahead and show you how to disassemble this gun. So you can clean it up. This thing is pretty dirty, so we get to see a lot today. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is push out the slide lock, slide release pin. Okay, now there is a cutout right here on the side of the slide. Okay, that the hook on the slide lock hooks into when the slide comes all the way back to that point. Okay, it's going to lock the slide open. Well, that cutout in that frame is going to have to be right over the top of this other end of the slide lock, slide release. Okay, otherwise we can't push the pin out through the side of the gun. Now the pin is right here, and it's kind of stiff, so I'm going to take the heel of my screwdriver and push on it and pop it through. Okay, now once it comes out, we extract it. Okay, come out of there. Pull right out of the frame. Okay, and now we can release the slide, and it will come forward. Okay, so from here, we're going to simply lift out the recoil spring. Okay, and guide rod. Okay, comes right out. From there, we're going to move the barrel forward slightly. Okay, pick up on the back end of it. Okay, and slide it out of the frame, out of the slide. Okay, now that's got us ready for our basic maintenance cleaning of the gun. Now, this one is very, very dirty, so we're going to do what we can to get this puppy all cleaned up, shiny and spiffy and ready to go. I know, spiffy. I keep using that word. That's one of those old guy words from back in the 60s when everything was like cool, man. So anyway, we're going to need a couple things. We're going to need a bore cleaning solvent. Okay, this is a military bore cleaning solvent. If you have hops, that will do just fine. It's not a problem. You're going to want a gun oil. Okay. Now, some guns have some plastic parts in them. This one, everything is aluminum in this gun, okay? So, you don't have to worry too much about plastic parts in it, but I always recommend using specifically a gun oil, because you never know exactly how a plastic is going to react to oil. Remember, plastics are made from oil. So in some plastics, if you put oil on them, it can cause them to swell up, it can cause them to disintegrate, it can cause problems. Now, truthfully, I've never seen that happen on a gun, okay? Doesn't mean it can't happen, okay? Because I assure you, it can happen if you have the wrong compounds together. I have seen oils affect plastic parts in other types of machinery. So, from there, let's move on to our cleaning. So, we're going to get our cleaning solvent, and we're going to wet a patch. And we're just going to start with some basic house cleaning, just kind of cleaning up everything we can find that's got filth and dirt on it. And believe me, on this gun, there's a lot of it. Okay, this thing is kind of pathetic, to be honest. I almost feel sorry for this gun, it's so bad. In fact, I have to say I do kind of feel sorry for this gun. It's so bad. Wow. I had another one come in the other day that was as filthy as this one was, and I mean, it was just awful. And this one is just about as bad. Not quite, but it's pretty filthy. Alrighty, man. To be honest, on this one, I'm going to recommend that it be taken completely apart and put through an ultrasound bath and cleaned up. This one's really bad. So in later videos, I'm actually going to do some of that. I'm going to show you how to take these things apart completely and how to put them in the ultrasound baths and get them all cleaned up. Now, there's no problem with using an implement like a screwdriver to push that patch down in the magazine well and into the little crevices. Just make sure that you don't bear down on it, because then you can punch through the patch and scratch up the gun, and that's not something you want to do. Okay, so we're going to get another patch because that other one is really filthy now, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to wet it and keep doing our house cleaning here. Okay, and down inside the magazine well is also pretty filthy. Oh, get in there, you. So I'm going to stick this patch in, and then I'm going to use my cleaning brush just kind of to grip it and just kind of scrub it around in there to get things cleaned up. Okay, I find that works pretty well. Now, a cleaning brush is kind of a wonderful thing. It has one side has bristles on it like a toothbrush. It's pretty wide. Okay, the other side has a very narrow set of bristles. Now this comes in really handy when you're trying to get into these tight little crevices like are down here in the slide. Okay, so it can be very, very beneficial to have one of these cleaning brushes. If you're you know, a little tight this month, you don't have one of these cleaning brushes, you can use an old toothbrush. So it gives you kind of a reason to keep them around. So that you can use them for this kind of situation. Alright. Now, okay, we're going to run the brush in here, break up some of the hard spots. Okay. Alright, there we go. And you can also, like I said before, you can use a screwdriver, small one, and carefully work it down into some of those places that are hard to get to. Alright, and just don't bear down on it. Alright, so wow, is this thing filthy. Holy smokes. Woo! Well, I'm sure my customer is going to be much happier with this gun. Wow, this thing, I don't know if you can see these patches, but they're pretty pathetic. Alright, so, and my customer is going to go nameless. I don't want to embarrass him. I'd say he's put an awful lot of rounds through this gun, to be honest. The Model 909 is an older Smith & Wesson. I'm not sure exactly when it came out. I'm thinking it probably is right around the time of the Clinton gun ban, assault gun ban, and all the rest, because he had something in that garbage about small magazines. You couldn't have more than 10 rounds in a magazine, and so pistol manufacturers were having to redesign guns so that they could only carry 10 rounds. So anyway, this is just the process of trying to get this cleaned up a little bit, get some of the filth out of it so it'll actually function. Yeah, I'm definitely going to recommend this one for the ultrasound bath. It's pretty bad. Alright, so we're going to keep our cleaning up. We've even got filth up in here in the slide in the barrel channel, so I'm going to have to do that too. Now, guns don't really love neglect, so try and make sure you kind of try and keep up on this cleaning if you're new to the gun world. because when they get this bad, they do things like they don't cycle properly. In other words, they won't shoot. You'll get one round off, and then that's all that happens, and then you've got a jam on your hands. So you want to make sure that you keep your gun clean. Okay. So again, we're just going to keep on cleaning all these parts. We're going to clean the barrel. There's lots of little grooves and nooks and crannies in all of these parts where they're machined to fit together. And you're going to want all that garbage out of there, because the stuff that's in these guns, okay, yeah, it is burnt powder, and burnt powder leaves carbon. Now, carbon is very, very hard. In fact, it's what's used to make steel. Basically, steel is iron and carbon. So carbon is very hard stuff, and it will act kind of like a grinding compound on the inside of your gun, so you definitely want to get it cleaned out of there. Wow. So like I said, this thing is on the pathetic side. Alright, so recently a friend, one of my patrons actually, and I thank him for it because he was absolutely right, he wrote me an email and said, hey, you really ought to be wearing rubber gloves while you're doing all these cleanings. And he's absolutely right about that. So I went out and I bought some gloves from a company called Harbor Freight. Okay, I know they have an online presence, and I think you can order stuff from them. But these gloves they're heavy duty gloves, rubber gloves, but you can still feel things through them. Okay, the tips of them are textured a little bit so that they grip fairly well. Okay, so you don't lose parts real bad with them. So they work real well. So that's harborfreight.com. Again, they're not a sponsor. They're just a company that I bought these gloves from, and they are working very well for me. So that's just nothing important. Oop, dropped that one. Okay, now inside this guide rod there is actually a little spring in there. Okay, you can see these parts moving inside here. This isn't something that you're going to want to or be able to disassemble. Okay, so now I'm going to have to get my rag and dry up a little bit. When I drop that, my cat has been walking through this here this morning. Actually, he's my gunsmithing assistant. His name is Scamp. Well, he's not here right now, but he has starred in several of these videos, and well, this is his hair, so we have to clean that up. Alright, so we're going to continue our housekeeping here and get everything as clean as we can. That's not looking real bad in there right now, so I do see a spot in there I want to try and get. So I'm going to wet another patch and try and get this down in here. There's kind of a little well in the front behind the trigger guard that I'm going to try and push this into and clean it out, because it looks like there's some junk in there. Alright, so alright, that looks like that came out pretty good. Okay, now the patch went down the magazine well, so we'll just use our brush and kind of hook it and pull it out. Okay, there we go. So we got that done. Alright, we got our slide pretty well cleaned up. Alright, I'm going to show you a trick for cleaning recoil springs. It's a very simple one. Let me get another patch and we'll wet it up. Okay, it's a very simple technique, and it makes doing springs very easy. Okay, if you rub the outside of the spring, all you're really getting is the outside of the spring clean. Okay, so how do we get it all the way around that wire? Well, I'm going to show you a trick. We're going to take our patch after we've wet it, and we're going to fold it diagonally, and we're just simply going to slip it between the windings like that. Okay, and then we're going to pull the ends together like that. Now that has that wire completely surrounded by that patch, okay? And now all we have to do is kind of crank that spring through there like a big old screw, and that's going to clean our recoil spring, okay? That gets everything off because it's completely surrounding the wire, that wet patch with that solvent, okay? So we're going to get that all the way down there and crank it through to the other end. I didn't take it all the way to the end. I should have, so now I got to go all the way back. Oh well. Okay, so once you've got your spring cleaned up with your solvent, now as I'm going to show you this, because as you can see there was actually a good bit of dirt on that spring, okay? So now we're going to take a dry patch, okay, and we're going to clean that up. Now when you use this solvent, okay, this chemical solvent, one of the things you just need to kind of be aware of is that any deposits of powder or anything like that that is in the gun, when you hit that with the solvent, it's going to suspend it in that liquid, okay? So you're going to kind of want to try and get that liquid out of there. And as you'll be able to see from this patch, it's not real bad, but there was some dirt suspended in that cleaning solvent. All right, so we also want to go down through all these places on the gun that we've already gone through with the wet patch, and we're going to get as much out of there as we can, okay? Now it's fairly clean. It's not real bad now. It was when I started, that's for sure. Okay, so once we get all that cleaned up, okay, we're going to go on to the slide and clear it up, make sure we've got all the deposits out of that. Doing the same darn thing, okay? So it's like we're doing it twice, once with a wet patch and once with a dry one, okay? So we just clean everything up that we can get, and as you can see, more crap is coming out of that gun, so that's what we want to get out, is all that crap. So, alright, get our patch in there and get her cleaned up. Alrighty, so you can also clean up the outside of the gun. It isn't going to hurt at all, believe me. This will help to inhibit the growth of rust, which you definitely don't want. Alright, so that looks pretty good. Okay, now this gun is an aluminum frame gun, okay, so it's fairly light. It doesn't weigh all that much. The slide's made of steel, and it gets most of the weight of the gun, actually, to be honest. So we now need to clean the inside of the barrel, all right, which is just awful. Wow. Okay. So, under normal circumstances, I don't always use a ferrule to get this clean, but I want to wet this down pretty good because there's a lot in this barrel. Now, when I started to disassemble the gun, I noticed on the front side of the barrel, on the front side of the slide, right around the barrel, there were actually some small pieces of copper that were shaved off of copper jackets as the gun was fired. So I want to make sure I get everything out of this gun. So I'm going to fold this in half, again diagonally, so that I can slip it through this ferrule. Alright, can't see it real good, old eyes. Alright, so once I get her through, pull it through about halfway like that, okay, and now I'm going to stick it in this barrel and mop the inside of this barrel. Okay, so if you push it out of the end of the barrel a little bit like that, too far. If you push it out part way, but not all the way, and then pull it backwards, you're going to see it kind of bunch up, and that's going to tighten things up inside that barrel so it's going to do a better job of cleaning the inside of that barrel. All right, let's see if I can do it right this time. There we go. Now that's going to be nice and tight, nice snug fit. It's going to clean up our barrel. Okay. Well, that came out a lot cleaner than I expected it to that quick, but we'll take it. Okay, so after we get it cleaned up like that, now we're going to go to our 9mm brush. Now that everything's wet in here. Now 9mm, 357, 9mm by 18, 9mm by 19, 9mm Kurtz. All of those use the same brush. 38 caliber uses the same size brush. All right, so one of the things I want to show you with a brush is when you are using it, make sure you go all the way through the barrel and then come all the way back. The reason why is if you get part way down the barrel and you change directions, it will kink the bristles on that brush and literally shrink the diameter of your barrel brush. And at that point, it does not do as good a job of cleaning the barrel. Okay? So, run her back and forth a few times. Now we've got solvent down in that barrel, and just like we were talking about before, it's going to have any particles that were in that barrel are now going to be suspended in that liquid material. Okay, so we're going to put our thimble back on. Just crank it in like that. Get another patch. Fold her diagonally just like we did before. And we're going to pass it through our thimble. Actually hit the target that time. Old eyes or not. And we're going to push it back through the barrel and do the same thing again. Push it part way out the end and then pull it backwards so it kind of doubles back on itself and tightens up. Alright, now that's going to do a better job of cleaning out the inside of that barrel. So, when we take this patch off, you'll be able to see that there was a lot of stuff suspended in that liquid that was in the barrel that we now have gotten out of there. So, show you a trick now. I show this on all my videos, so if you've seen it before, be patient with me. All right, if you look down the barrel, you can see through it, but you can't see through it great, okay? But when you put a white patch behind it, you can see through that barrel a lot better, okay? Alright, so that's what we're doing. So that's exactly the technique I'm going to use when I'm inspecting this barrel. And it looks pretty clean. Alright, that'll work. Okay, so now we're going to start putting the gun, or excuse me, lubricating the gun, and then putting it back together. Alright, so I have this patch I just used, so we're going to use this to oil our recoil spring. We don't need to coat the entire patch with oil, just a few drops in the center, okay, like so. And now we're going to use the same trick we used before. We're going to fold it diagonally. We're going to slip that oily part between the windings and then pull it together on the other side, okay, and we're going to crank it through just like the big screw we did before, and that puts oil on the entire piece of wire that spring is made out of. Alright, and that gives us a good coat of lube on the outside of that spring and prevents it from rusting. Now, you keep hearing me talk about rust. Well, down here in South Florida, we have an issue that is much more severe here than in most places. We're surrounded by water on three sides. We're a peninsula. And what happens is that the air is extremely humid. When I say extremely humid, I mean most days it's 90 to 95 percent humidity all the time here. So you take your gun out of your nice cool house that's in the 70s in most cases. I keep mine at 73. And in the summertime you walk out into 95, 99 degree heat with 90 to 95% humidity, and the gun immediately starts to sweat. And so anything inside that gun that's steel that is still cool from being in the air conditioning gets water on it, okay? And if you don't have any oil on it, you're going to develop rust, okay? So I tend to err on the side of, hey, let's go ahead and lubricate this. And some people think I over oil my guns. Down here, I don't think so. Other places, maybe so. If you're out in the interior of the country, it's much drier there, and you don't have the problem with humidity. What you do have there is a problem with dust contamination. And what is dust contamination? Well, dust contamination is you end up with oil getting impregnated with dust and drying out and becoming a sludge that's very sticky, and it can prevent the gun from operating properly. So based on where you're from, your needs in maintenance may be a little different, okay? You'll hear a lot of people argue with that, I'm sure. Everything is a trade-off in guns, okay? If you have a gun that's really got a lot of punch, like the 500 Smith & Wesson, okay, it's a powerful gun, and it'll stop anything you need to stop. But it also weighs a ton, and you can't conceal the darn thing, it's just too big. So everything is a trade-off. Less oil means more chance of rusting, okay? More oil means a chance of dust contamination. So there's always a trade-off, always a, well, that might be better this way or might be better that way. You're always going to see different opinions on these kinds of subjects. Now, there are a couple things that I did not do that I now need to do when it comes to oiling, okay? The barrel passes through the slide right here. With every shot, it's rubbing back and forth through that slide, every single shot. So you're going to want to put some oil on that barrel to make sure that it's lubricated. Again, it's a high contact, high wear area. I like to just take the oil and just kind of rub it on it, okay, just like that. Alright, that's got the outside of that barrel lubricated. And we're going to stick her right back in where we got her from, right back in there, okay. And if we run it back and forth a couple of times, it's going to lubricate those contact points, okay? And so that's what we want. We're going to put a couple of drops in the slide rails, okay? Now those are those slots that are on the side of the slide here. I'm going to put one drop in each corner, okay? And that's going to lubricate that slide. If you look right back here, you'll see some spots that are shiny, okay? Put a little bit of oil on there. Don't hesitate, all right? I want to keep my safety oiled, okay? That's important to me. I like keeping my safety nice and oiled. I think it's kind of important that you are able to engage your safety when you want to, okay? Now, we're going to go through the frame, and there are a couple of springs down in here I want to get some oil on because of our humidity situation, all right? These parts back here are all moving parts, so we want to put a little drop of oil in each one of those. Okay, both sides of our hammer. I like to put it on the sides of my trigger as well, and that lubricates that. Okay, it will suck it up into the gun. Work it around a little bit, make sure everything's thoroughly coated. Okay. Everything's moving properly, looks good. Okay, so we're going to put the recoil spring back in, and when I do that, I'm going to show you something in that recoil spring that is, I think it's kind of important. There is a little rounded ledge right here on the barrel, okay? You're going to be able to see it. That little cutout right there is made to accommodate the corner of this rounded piece on the guide rod. So when we push our recoil spring up into position, all right, we're going to take that guide rod and we're going to hook it onto that little spot that's right there on that rail, okay? Or I mean on the barrel, and that's going to hold us in place, all right? So from here, we're going to take our frame, and we're going to turn it upside down and just slide it right into place. Okay. Now, when you get to the back here, you're going to have to take your thumb and press this ejector down so that the barrel, or I mean the slide, can slide into position. All right, now there's three little parts in here that are going to fight you on putting that slide back into place. You push them down and you simply push the slide back into place. Get down there, you stinker. There we go. Didn't want to go down easily. All right, now once you've got the gun this far along, okay, you're going to take your slide lock slide release pin and you're going to put it through. Now I'm going to put a drop of oil on this because it's dry as hell. Okay. Alright, so we're going to push that slide back, okay, until that cutout in the slide is in a position to where that pin will go through, okay, what it needs to go through. Alright, now once it goes in, we keep pushing until it goes all the way in. Now I let the slide out of my hand a little bit, so I got to push it back and get that stinker all the way in. Once that pin is all the way in, the gun is reassembled and ready to go. We're lubed and we're in good shape. Okay? Alright. And that's the Model 909 Smith & Wesson. Particularly filthy gun. Hey everybody, Bill 1911 here. If you found this video to be helpful and informative, don't forget to like us, and please subscribe, and by all means come to visit us at askbill1911.com. Also, I want to talk to you about something that's very important to us, and that's your safety. So please, don't try any of the things you see on our videos until you have thoroughly reviewed and understood our safety procedures. If you're under 18 years of age, do not try any of these topics without the express permission of your parent or guardian. Thank you.